We're diving into a pretty heavy topic today about that recent Tesla crash in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's a story that's tragic and honestly deeply unsettling.
Yes.
4 lives were lost.
Yeah.
Only 1 survivor pulled from the burning wreckage.
Right.
And get this, the person who rescued her actually had to smash the car window because the doors wouldn't open.
Wow.
So we've got a stack of news articles here to try to make sense of it all, particularly this one from the Toronto Star that lays out the events.
Okay.
5 people were in a Model Y, traveling at high speed when the driver lost control.
Oh, wow.
They hit a guardrail,
Oh, jeez.
then slammed into a concrete pillar, and the car burst into flames.
That's terrifying.
And that's when the real nightmare began.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
The article actually quotes Rick Harper. He's a 73-year-old bystander who witnessed the crash and raced to help.
Wow.
And he said, and I'm quoting here, "You couldn't open the doors." I would assume the young lady would have tried to open the door from the inside because she was pretty desperate to get out.
Oh, my gosh.
Can you imagine that feeling?
Oh, it's just awful.
Trapped inside a burning car with the doors refusing to budge.
It's a horrifying thought, and it really raises serious concerns about those emergency procedures in these vehicles.
Yeah.
Like, how reliable are they? How accessible are they?
I know Teslas have manual releases for the doors, but this situation makes me wonder, are they good enough?
Yeah.
What if the passengers were injured or disoriented from the impact?
Right.
Could they have even located or operated those releases in time?
Yeah, it's a crucial point, and there has been debate surrounding the design and placement of these manual releases in Model Ys.
Really?
Some argue that they're not intuitive enough, especially in a high-stress situation where, panic can take over.
Absolutely.
It makes you think, should there be like a system that automatically unlocks the doors upon impact?
Yeah.
Or even partially opens them to help people get out?
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because this isn't, some abstract design flaw.
Whoa.
This is about real lives lost.
Right.
3 men in their 20s and 30s, a woman in her 30s, and a 25-year-old woman who miraculously survived but will carry the weight of this experience forever.
I can't imagine. And what about Mr. Harper, the rescuer?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
To learn that 4 of the people he desperately tried to save didn't make it,
Yep.
that kind of trauma has got to be incredibly heavy to bear.
It really brings home the human cost of this tragedy,
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that technology, for all its potential, can have unintended consequences.
It's true.
And those consequences can be devastating.
Yeah, it forces us to ask those tough questions.
Like what?
Are we doing enough to ensure the safety of these vehicles? Are we adequately preparing drivers for emergency situations? And are we pushing manufacturers to prioritize safety over style or convenience?
Those are all good questions, and those are the questions we'll be digging into as we continue this deep dive.
Okay.
But before we go there, I want to take a closer look at the issue with those doors.
Right.
What happened there? Did the crash somehow disable the electronic system?
Let's unpack how these electronic doors actually work in Teslas, including their backup systems, and then we can explore what might have gone wrong in this specific incident.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So you're right. Teslas do have those backup systems for their electronic doors.
Okay.
Essentially, there are manual release levers
Right.
located near the floor of each door.
Okay, so in theory, even if the electronic system fails, passengers should still be able to get out using these levers.
Yeah, that's the idea. But remember, we're talking about a high-speed crash here.
Right.
The impact alone could have caused significant damage to the car's internal structure, potentially jamming those levers or making them difficult to reach.
And you mentioned earlier that there's been some criticism about the design and accessibility of these manual releases.
Yeah.
What are the specific concerns there?
Well, some critics argue that the placement of the levers isn't intuitive,
Okay.
especially for someone who's never used them before. They're tucked away near the floor, and in a panic situation, it's easy to imagine someone frantically searching for a way out and overlooking them entirely.
Yeah, that's a good point. It seems like even if the levers themselves are functional, there's still a chance that passengers might not be able to find or use them effectively in an emergency.
Exactly, and that's why this incident raises some important questions about design choices.
Like what?
Are we prioritizing aesthetics over accessibility? Are we making assumptions about user behavior that might not hold true in a real-world crisis?
And it makes you wonder, could improved design or even just better user education have made a difference in this case?
Yeah.
Like what if those manual releases were more prominently marked? or if Tesla owners were required to go through some kind of emergency procedure training as part of the buying process.
I think those are excellent points.
Yeah.
There's definitely a need for clearer, more intuitive design when it comes to safety features. And when you consider that most people probably never even think about those manual releases until it's too late, mandatory training could be a valuable step in saving lives.
Yes, like you wouldn't hand someone the keys to a plane without making sure they knew how to handle an emergency landing right. So why wouldn't we apply that same logic to vehicles that are increasingly reliant on complex technology?
It's a compelling analogy, and it highlights the need for a shift in mindset, both on the part of manufacturers and consumers.
Mm-hmm.
We need to move beyond simply assuming that technology will always work as intended and start thinking more critically about how to prepare for those moments when it doesn't.
Speaking of things not working as intended, what about the fire?
Right.
Deputy Fire Chief Jessup mentioned that they're investigating the role of the battery cells and the intensity of the blaze.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that? What makes EV fires different from those involving gasoline cars?
EV fires are a whole different beast.
How so?
The lithium-ion batteries that power these vehicles contain a tremendous amount of energy, and when they ignite, they can burn hotter and longer than traditional gasoline fires.
So even if you manage to extinguish the initial flames, there's a risk that the battery could reignite, creating a dangerous situation for firefighters and anyone nearby.
Precisely, and that's why specialized training and equipment are becoming increasingly important for first responders.
Right.
They need to know how to approach these fires, how to contain them, and how to prevent reignition.
It seems like we're still in the early stages of figuring all this out.
Yeah.
We're rapidly adopting this new technology, but the infrastructure to deal with its potential hazards isn't quite there yet.
That's a valid concern. And it underscores the need for ongoing research development and collaboration between manufacturers, regulators, and emergency response teams.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive in addressing these challenges, not reactive.
So it's not just about making EVs safer, but also about equipping our first responders with the knowledge and tools they need to handle these incidents effectively.
Absolutely. It's a multifaceted issue that requires a comprehensive approach. But amidst all these challenges, it's important to remember that EVs also offer some potential safety advantages.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to ask you about that. What are some of the positive aspects of EV safety?
Well, for one, EVs tend to have a lower center of gravity than gasoline cars, which can improve stability and reduce the risk of rollovers. They also often come equipped with advanced safety features like automatic emergency braking and lane keeping assist.
Oh, right.
These features can help prevent accidents from happening in the first place.
So it's not about saying EVs are inherently unsafe, but rather that they present a different set of safety considerations compared to traditional vehicles.
Exactly. It's about understanding the nuances of both the potential risks and benefits, and then working to mitigate the former while maximizing the latter.
And that brings us to the question of responsibility. Who is ultimately accountable for ensuring EV safety? Is it the manufacturers, the regulators, or even the consumers themselves?
I see it as a shared responsibility. Manufacturers have a duty to design safe vehicles and educate consumers about their features, especially those related to safety. Regulators need to establish rigorous safety standards for EVs and ensure that those standards are met, and consumers need to be informed and proactive about their own safety, which includes understanding the limitations of the technology they're using.
It sounds like it's not about pointing fingers or placing blame, but about a collective effort to make EVs as safe as possible.
Yeah. It really does feel like a turning point, this whole conversation about EV safety. It's no longer just about the excitement of the new technology. It's about confronting those very real risks.
Right.
And figuring out how to move forward responsibly.
Exactly. This incident has thrown those risks into sharp relief, but it's also sparking a much-needed dialogue about solutions.
So where do we even begin?
Well,
it seems like a massive undertaking to address all these challenges.
Yeah.
The doors, the battery, fires, the need for better training and infrastructure. It's definitely complex, but I think we can start by breaking it down into manageable pieces.
Okay.
Like something you mentioned earlier, user education.
Oh, right. The idea that maybe Tesla owners or even all EV owners should have to go through some kind of safety training as part of the buying process.
Exactly. Imagine a scenario where before you even get behind the wheel of your new EV, you're required to watch a video or complete an interactive tutorial that walks you through the vehicle's safety features, including those all-important manual releases for the doors.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, let's be honest, Most of us probably just skim the owner's manual and assume we'll figure things out as we go.
Yeah.
But when it comes to safety, that's not good enough.
Not at all, and it shouldn't be left solely to the consumer to seek out this information.
Right.
Manufacturers have a responsibility to make it clear, accessible, and even mandatory.
I see your point.
Think about it. You can't operate a forklift or fly a drone without proper certification.
That's true.
Why should a vehicle capable of traveling at high speeds be any different?
Yeah, there's a disconnect there. We're so focused on the technological advancements, but we're not giving enough attention to the human element,
Right.
making sure people actually know how to use these vehicles safely.
Precisely. And that goes beyond just knowing how to operate the car under normal conditions.
Okay.
It's about preparing for those unexpected, potentially life-threatening situations.
Like what kinds of things?
What do you do if the car loses power? How do you get out if the doors won't open electronically? These are questions that every EV owner should know the answers to.
And it's not just about individual responsibility either.
Yeah.
We need to think about the bigger picture, the role of regulators and government agencies in setting and enforcing safety standards.
Yes, absolutely. We need to push for regulations that address the unique safety challenges posed by EVs, particularly when it comes to battery fires. Are our current fire codes adequate? Do first responders have the training and equipment they need?
Those are big questions.
Yeah, these are questions that need to be answered at a policy level.
So it's about taking a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Education, regulation, technological advancements. It's a complex problem that requires a collaborative effort from all stakeholders.
I couldn't agree more. And it's encouraging to see that some positive steps are already being taken.
Like what?
For example, there's ongoing research into developing new types of batteries that are less prone to thermal runaways,
Right.
which is the phenomenon that causes those intense fires.
That's great to hear. And what about the design of the vehicles themselves?
Yeah.
Are there any innovations on that front that could improve safety?
There certainly are. Some manufacturers are experimenting with systems that would automatically unlock and even partially open doors upon detecting a crash, just as you suggested earlier.
Oh, wow.
And there's been talk of incorporating more fire-resistant materials into the car's structure to slow down the spread of flames in the event of a battery fire.
It sounds like there's a lot of promising work being done, but
Yeah.
there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And it's going to require sustained effort and commitment from everyone involved to ensure that EVs live up to their full potential, not just in terms of sustainability and performance, but also safety.
Well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to acknowledge the human cost of this tragedy.
Yeah.
4 lives were lost, and that's something we should never forget.
Absolutely. It's a sobering reminder that technology, for all its marvels, can have unintended consequences. And it's up to us to learn from these mistakes and to work towards a future where those consequences are minimized, if not eliminated entirely.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the specific details of the crash to the broader challenges and potential solutions surrounding EV safety.
Yeah.
It's a complex and evolving landscape, but one that demands our attention and our best efforts.
I think this deep dive has highlighted some critical points for you to consider as you navigate this world of emerging technologies. Remember to be informed, to ask questions, and to demand safety as a non-negotiable priority.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about, protecting human life. And that's a goal worth striving for, no matter how challenging the road ahead may be.